Cognitive shuffling, a mental trick to help you quiet racing thoughts and fall asleep when Dr. Luc Baudouin was an undergraduate student nearly 40 years ago. He often had trouble falling asleep on Sunday nights and was eager to find a solution. He found inspiration in a cognitive psychology class he was taking and a professor's theory regarding visual motion detection. Baudouin, now a cognitive scientist, said, "Visual motion detection refers to the visual system's ability to perceive and process motion based on changing patterns of light on the retina. I thought to myself, if I can understand the human brain's sleep onset control system, I could perhaps devise a technique to trick the brain into falling asleep." Baudouin, who is also an adjunct professor of education at Simon Fraser University in British Columbia, said via email that technique was cemented as cognitive shuffling by 2009, when he was 41 and experiencing another bout of difficulty initially falling asleep or falling back asleep after waking up in the middle of the night. "My insomnia went away," Baudouin said. "My girlfriend, now my wife, was amazed that I would fall asleep so quickly. I felt I was onto something important. So I read more extensively and thought deeply about the sleep onset control system." Cognitive shuffling typically involves mentally conjuring up random, impersonal, and non-emotionally charged words. For each letter of a word you pick at random, you think of as many corresponding words as you can for 5 to 8 seconds each. Before moving to the next letter, Baudouin said, for the word piano, for example, you might think pear, parachute, Paul, pirouette, item, intention, immature, igloo, and so on. Baudouin is also an owner of Cogsist and a co-founder of Cogsy Apps Corp. and Somnolence Plus Inc., all of which develop products based on his research. While the technique may not sound calming, it takes your mind off of your problems and your issues and helps you get into a more relaxed state of mind, said Dr. Fariha Abbasi-Feinberg, a sleep medicine physician and neurologist at the Millennium Physician Group in Fort Myers, Florida. "I always tell patients, you cannot force yourself to sleep. You have to allow yourself to sleep. And this is just one of the methods that we use to help with that," added Abbasi-Feinberg, who often suggests the technique for her patients having sleep issues. "Sometimes you can even visualize corresponding scenarios or movements, such as yourself playing the piano or someone falling with a parachute," Baudouin said. Read more, Anxiety Robbing Your Sleep. A weighted blanket may help. Here's the science behind cognitive shuffling and what to know about practicing it. Why cognitive shuffling works at this point. There's little research on cognitive shuffling, so what makes some doctors back a do-it-yourself sleep hack without substantial evidence? It turns out that the fundamental theory behind cognitive shuffling, though conjectural, aligns with established principles in cognitive neuroscience and sleep psychology. Dr. Leah Kaler, a clinical psychologist and author based in Louisiana, said via email, "It's based on a large number of studies Baudouin and other researchers reviewed in a paper published April 2020 in the journal Sleep Medicine Reviews. In addition to taking the mind off one's worries, cognitive shuffling resembles in critical respects natural sleep onset," Baudouin said. "In the natural transition into sleep, people tend to have microdreams and fragmented, non-linear thought patterns," Baudouin and Kaler said. "Intentionally engaging in random, disconnected thinking may replicate this cognitive sleep state, helping people fall asleep. We think there's a positive feedback loop in the brain. Microdreams are not just a product of falling asleep. They cue the brain that it is safe and appropriate to fall asleep," Baudouin said. "Since our brains tend to shuffle between random thoughts during quieter periods, giving our brains a calming or neutral distraction can be more helpful than allowing them to find something on their own." Dr. Kami McManus, a sleep psychologist in the Department of Sleep Medicine at Penn Medicine in Philadelphia, said via email, Baudouin published his third study on cognitive shuffling in 2016. The study's sample size was small, but its findings were encouraging. 150 for college students, most of them female, were randomly assigned to a standard treatment done before bedtime, to practicing a cognitive shuffling exercise more formally known as a serial diverse imagining, task SDIT, or to both. In the SDIT group, An app randomly presented recordings of words one at a time, with 8-second intervals in between, during which participants created and maintained an image of the word, until the next recording prompted the next image, and so on. The SDIT group were more likely to experience improvements in sleep quality, difficulty falling asleep and sleep arousal, heightened physical or mental activity. While trying to fall asleep, these benefits lasted throughout the semester. Baudoin and his team are planning additional research, this time comparing cognitive shuffling to other mental visualization and cognitive techniques. Imagining yourself to sleep to practice cognitive shuffling. There isn't a set number of words or amount of time required. The words you choose for each letter also don't have to be logically related, Kaler said. Trying to control the randomness will reduce the technique's effectiveness. People typically report falling asleep within around 5 to 15 minutes, while others may take longer, especially if they're highly stressed or prone to overthinking. Kaler said, if you find yourself engaged in the technique for more than 20 minutes, or starting to feel frustrated, it's best to give up and get out of bed, McManus said. Your body may not be ready, so doing a calming activity elsewhere for 20 to 30 minutes before going back to bed and trying again is better than trying too hard and activating negative emotions, making sleep more difficult. Try this technique several nights in a row before you decide whether cognitive shuffling works for you. These experts recommend it. However, remember that it's not a replacement for proper sleep hygiene or a cure for a sleep condition. If someone drinks a lot of coffee before bed, they shouldn't expect cognitive techniques to help them fall asleep, Baudoin said. Additionally, you should still ensure you have regular sleep and wake times. A bedtime routine involving other wind-down habits such as journaling or taking a warm shower. A quiet, dark and cool room, limited screen time before bed, and no alcohol in the few hours before sleep. If you regularly have problems sleeping, Baudoin emphasized that cognitive techniques in general aren't replacements for medical advice. They're also not substitutes for cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, known as CBTI. As many cases of insomnia have more than one element in need of treatment,